Okay, welcome back to the Mark David Show, where the truth is a conspiracy. So I'm going to connect some dots for you. But as always, you decide, okay? You decide. The dots I'm connecting: marijuana laws and gun control, potentially gun confiscation. I'm not trying to create some radical fear-mongering stuff. I'm just going to connect some dots. Keep this in mind. This is from CNN.com. The name of the article is Pot Smokers Enter Legal Limbo in Washington and Colorado. Initiative 502 legalized recreational marijuana use starting December 6th. That's possession of up to an ounce of marijuana by adults became legal, though growing it and selling it remains a crime. Now here's my statement. How is possessing an ounce going to change anyone's life that already uses pot? This law really didn't change anything. Now, that's going to become more relevant as I add these more dots. Okay. Meanwhile, it opens up all kinds of opportunities for police to make sure you're not stoned while driving, because this is all of a sudden so important. It's so important now that you're not stoned while you're driving, so the police care so much. Okay, this is from Fox News. Multiple studies show marijuana can cause dizziness and slowed reaction time, affecting coordination and judgment. Drivers are more likely to drift and swerve while they're high, according to research in the Netherlands. Thank you, Fox News. Thank you for clarifying. But the real reason this looks to me like is mandatory drug testing of drivers. All of a sudden, this is so important. Okay, this is from King5.com, August 15th. This is the name of the article is New Washington DUI Blood Draw Law in Effect. Okay, so this was passed before. This was passed back in August. Okay, a new law took effect August 1st in Washington, allows state patrol troopers to have blood drawn from drunken drivers, even if they don't give it up voluntarily. Troopers who receive appropriate training can administer the blood draws, as well as medical professionals and other trained responders. So here, I'm going to just, before we go on, and there's lots more to cover here, let's reiterate. Okay, so you got this new law in Washington that doesn't really do much unless you're stopped on the street and you're carrying an ounce. And how many people are arrested for being stopped on the street and carrying an ounce with them? Because what you're doing in your home, no one's been bothering you. What I'm saying is, how does this really, truly affect people who've been smoking marijuana in Washington all this time? And yet, there's this grave concern, so much so that new laws are being passed that, by God, we better draw your blood to make sure that you're not driving while you're stoned. And, by the way, troopers can do it. And they can do it right on the spot, just kind of like a diabetes type test. Now, how necessary is this? Let's make sure we don't shut out other voices. This is from MPP.org. That's the Marijuana Policy Project. So let's hear from the other side, why don't we? While such laws do little to actually make roadways safer, they do send many innocent people to jail. And they saddle them with criminal records for the rest of their lives. The inability to accurately measure marijuana impairment is why both the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, let me say that again, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, why does governments have to have such big names? Why can't they just call them the red department? Okay, and the National Institute on Drug Abuse have stated that marijuana impairment testing via blood sampling is unreliable. But the cops are so worried about it because, just like Fox News said that there's a study in the Netherlands. We got to be really careful because this study in the Netherlands, drivers are more likely to drift and swerve while they're high, according to this research. Okay, anyway, moving on. Okay, with pot legal, police are worried about road safety. This is from the Associated Press, November 15th, 2012. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, currently, they've changed their tone. Peak THC concentrations are reached during the act of smoking, and within 3 hours, they generally fall to less than 5 nanograms per milliliter of blood, which apparently is going to be the level that Washington's going to bust you on. The same standard in Washington's law, one supporter is described as roughly equivalent to 0.08 limit for alcohol. But this is where it's important. This is not just the case in Washington, okay? Okay, I want you to see the details, and then we're going to look at the big picture. Because I've told you on the show before that the Northwest is where people like the Southern Poverty Law Center are paranoid about. Okay, so I'm going to show you that this is going to expand into the Northwest. Now listen to this. This is from police1.com. Oregon police prepare for neighboring pot users. One of the greatest concerns echoed by the law enforcement officials is people going over to Washington to obtain weed and driving home stoned. They're so worried about this. What about Idaho? Same article. Idaho officials already have their hands full with Idahoans obtaining medical marijuana out of state. The gem state borders 3 medical marijuana states, a reality that has caused medical marijuana arrests to outpace those of traffickers or other users. So this is big business, you understand, number one. And before you say, okay, you're getting a little out there, you're pushing this, I just want to bring this up, this little known fact people obviously aren't talking about. Did everyone forget that marijuana users can't own guns? Did everyone, you got this record sale of guns and ammo? Did everyone forget that you can't own guns? This is from USA Today 30, the name of the article from 9/29/2011. Medical marijuana patients angered by firearms limits. According to a new memo from the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive, it is illegal for any registered medical marijuana patient to own or possess firearms or ammunition. A required form asks whether the buyer is a controlled substance user, even if you say no on the form. This is from MSNBC.com, 9/29/11. The name of the article is, Do medical marijuana users have right to bear arms? No, says ATF. If they have a reasonable cause to believe, last week's letter that the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms sent out says also that licensed dealers can't sell a gun or ammunition if they have a reasonable cause to believe the buyer is using a controlled substance. So it's up to the gun. It's up to the people selling the guns. They can just deny you no matter what. Okay. Now I want to go through some of mainstream media's campaign against guns, and I'm not even going to include this British, inbred moron, Piers Morgan. I'm not going to include him. I'm just going to use their favorite source of information, the Southern Poverty Law Center. But before I do, I want to summarize where we're at. So we got this new law that really doesn't change anything really for users of pot. Okay, and you got the whole Northwest freaking out about, oh God, we're going to arrest everybody. There's this laws have already been passed that they can actually just draw your blood without your consent. And by the way, you can't own a gun if the government has a record of you using marijuana. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about the mainstream media's campaign against guns. Okay, this is from Southern Poverty Law Center. The title of it, I'll just go through some of these titles and then I'll get into some specifics. A gathering of eagles. Extremists look to Montana. Okay, so we got some extremists. Now follow me on this, because I'm gonna lead this into what they're talking about here. Okay, here's another one. This is actually from a local paper that the Oregon Registered Guard. It's a local paper in Eugene, Oregon, that the Southern Poverty Law Center is training police in Eugene about hate crimes. Because remember, the Southern Poverty Law Center loves to tell the U.S. government how the whole Northwest is a bunch of radical Nazis. Okay, so that they're actually going in and they're training police. So the last article, they're in Montana, they're showing them in Oregon. And remember, these are all the states that are getting paranoid about Washington's marijuana laws. Don't forget this. Okay, here's another one. SPLC intelligence report. Neo-Nazis building white supremacist compound in Idaho. It's 11/27. Okay. Now, this is, so let's establish again. Marijuana laws, all the state's cops are preparing for it. They'll draw your blood without your consent. You can't own a gun if they know you have marijuana. And the Southern Poverty Law Center is saying that these are all a bunch of neo-Nazis anyway. So, and they're actually, I just want to establish that they're actually going to the police departments. And where I'm leading this to is the Southern Poverty Law Center's attitude towards guns and their willingness to use any means of propaganda. So this is where it's going to get word. This is from an article that they had called Meet the Patriots, a list of young, old, black, white. This is from my words. It's a list. The title is called Meet the Patriots. It's a list of young, old, black, white, Asian men, women, police, governors, media, etc. It's a list of people they're calling patriots. Okay, this is from the article. In the last year and a half, militias and a large anti-government patriot movement have exploded, accompanied by the rapid expansions of other sectors of the radical right. And again, they're saying this is focusing largely in the Northwest. Now, one of them listed as a patriot, this radical anti-government, is Luke Rudakowski from We Are Change. You know, the guy who goes around confronting Bilderbergers? Definitely not a radical right guy, okay? And then, so here's the Ron Paul connection. This is from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Ron Paul invites neo-Confederate witness to testify in Congress. Okay? This is from their spring 2012. The Patriot movement explodes. Remember, they're calling patriots, again, anti-government. They got guys like Luke Rudakowski who go around filming rich people saying, why did you go to the Bilderberg meeting? He's one of these people, okay? Supposedly. Okay, the entire article in this, the Patriot movement explodes, intertwines hate groups and the so-called political movement. Okay, so that's where we're at. Okay, so we got this huge anti-government movement according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Okay, we got the Southern Poverty Law Center going around the Northwest saying it's a bunch of haters training police, the same police who are already gearing up for this new marijuana law, which means you can't own a gun. Now, here's the gun connection. This is from Southern Poverty Law Center. Gun rights advocates to march against phantom threat. February 1st, 2010. Gun rights advocates, including some of the anti-government patriot movement, which apparently include Luke Rudakowski from We Are Change, for whom the specter of gun restrictions is a reoccurring theme, are planning to march in Washington, D.C. Here we go. So again, they're making this connection. In all their articles, they're making the connection between what they're calling patriots, which are anti-government people, and hate groups. Okay? They're training police and giving seminars. Police who are now going to be taking your blood, with or without your consent, which can cost you your gun. Because the marijuana laws that don't really change anything about marijuana use means you can't own a gun. Those are the dots I'm connecting. You decide. The listeners to the Mark David Show are plenty capable of deciding for themselves. Okay, that's all the time we have for today. Don't forget, at Mark David Show on Twitter. Don't forget to like the Mark David Show on Facebook if you're on social media. And don't forget, the truth is a conspiracy.